And then there's the case of Dak. This one, I still don't know. My spidey sense tells me they're not signing him before the season.
I tried, yeah.
That's what my spidey sense says, that if there's anybody that can stare into the abyss of not having the negotiating hammer, because the guy that you're trying to sign has on his side a no trade clause and a no franchise tagging clause, and has all of the attributes you want to have in a starting quarterback in the NFL, which is great character, great community sense, great locker room sense, great game sense. If there's anybody who can look at that and say, if I don't sign him, it will cost me more money than it's going to cost me now. And I could run the risk of losing him and alienating him throughout the playing season I need him in. If there's anybody that could go ahead and just say, whatever, that's Jerry Jones. It is. Now, I don't know if Steven's on the other shoulder saying, we got to get this done, Pops. I don't know, because
you'd hope so.
Dak Prescott sounds like a guy who is resigned. He doesn't sound like a guy who is in any way, shape, or form rattled.
He shouldn't be.
He's not rattled. He's resigned.
He's going to get paid regardless, right?
Well, and the question is by who?
Exactly.
Right. So
by whom?
This is what he had to say when asked yesterday if the contract that we're all talking about needs to be done prior to the season.
You don't need a deal done before the season.
I don't need a no.
Would you like it done before the season?
I think it says a lot if it is or if it isn't. But however, doesn't really matter to me, to be honest with you.
What does it say if it isn't?
Just how people feel.
Which people?
I don't know.
How do you feel? how do you feel if it isn't?
You're right about that.
You open that door.
Yeah, I know.
That's Clarence Hill, our friend and guest from yesterday.
He gone.
I don't know about that either. But what he says, that it's an indication of whether it happens or not. If it's an indication if it happens, that means he's wanted in Dallas. If it is an indication if it does not happen, he will take that as a sign that there is a door that's being opened. And Jerry Jones could sit here and say, it'll get done. Don't worry, Dak, I see him here. He has essentially, if it's done before the season, and I don't know if Dak has said, I will not entertain contractual talks during the season. I don't want to be distracted by that. I wouldn't blame him if he just puts it in a box and says, that's it. I'm hitting free agency. And I'm going to have the opportunity to pull, if you will, a Joe Flacco. And kids, I'm not talking about last year's comeback player of the year. I'm talking about the guy who went into a season for the Ravens saying, I'd like mine. The Ravens say, no. The owner is saying, you want yours? Do what I'd like you to do, and then show up at my desk with a bag and I'll fill it. And Steve Bisciotti wound up with a bag on his desk and he filled it because Flacco
did what he had to do.
And what he did in those playoffs, everybody Google that. Mm-hmm. He had one of the best playoffs in the history of playoff quarterbacking.
Ever.
And so Jerry would like to have that situation. I'm just wondering because I'm just wondering if Dak would do that and then walk. Because I wouldn't blame him for doing that. Certainly if he's sitting here saying, like, if it's not done, then it would make me feel the way everybody else is talking about it, which is it sure looks like the Cowboys aren't giving Dak the proper respect. Now, we're saying this without knowing what he's asking for. And it is a crazy thing in our world where when it comes to sports, everybody sides on the side of the very rich management.
Yeah, it's crazy.
As opposed to the player.
It's weird.
Because the player is doing his or her best to get what they want in the small window of opportunity they have to play sports and have that hammer. And in terms of, this is 22 years that I've done. This is my 22nd season. In terms of hammers, name a hammer.
Greg.
Armand.
Arm.
Okay, name one.
Greg the Hammer Valentine.
As big as the one that Dak's got?
There isn't one. I've never seen a player have a hammer where you can't trade me, you can't franchise tag me, and if I walk, it's $40 million of dead cap on you.
Yeah.
I can't recall that.
Great job by Dak's team.
And the only hammer that Jerry Jones has is name me another franchise that you can play for as quarterback where that is like center field of the Yankees. That is, and name me a better, tax-free state to live in, and what I mean. Like
There's a lot that comes with it.
Those may not be anything that sways a guy, or name me another. I mean, Cousins had Justin Jefferson and walked. That's another thing too. You just paid your receiver, so you're not going to pay me. I
know there is a spot just as cool though that will have a quarterback opening and is a tax-free state and has a legacy fan base.
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, the Raiders have a spot open next year.
So that's the thing also, that there may be some places out there.
Yeah, there will be.
So this is the one too. So, Jerry said that it doesn't have to be done before the season. And you heard him, again, we led this show with 2 days ago with him saying, I don't know if the fans know that Dak is going to have to do more with less. Meaning again that, and again, no other team pays their quarterback top dollar, their wide receiver top dollar, and their defensive pass rusher top dollar. The only team that comes close are the Chiefs with Chris Jones and Mahomes and Kelsey, but tight ends aren't even in the realm of wide receiver.
Right.
So $60 million, $35 million, and another $35 million. That's a nice chunk of the cap.
There is less pie.
So,
Attaboy, Jake.
this is what Dak had. Now, reading this soundbite jumped off the page at me. I have not heard it yet.
Okay.
So we will see how it sounds. But reading it was just like dismissive. He was asked about what Jerry Jones has been saying publicly.
How do you feel about Jerry said the negotiation isn't about your merit as the Cowboys quarterback, but more about their cap situation? What do you take from that when he says, it's not really about what you're doing?
Yeah, I understand that. That's the business and the nature of this game that we play. I stopped, honestly, listening to things that he says to the media a long time ago. So it doesn't really hold weight with me.
Kinda sounds like how it reads.
This is his second go-around on this front, too. Now then, listen, when it all comes down to it, I don't know if it's going to get done in the next week plus. There's still a ton of time, and I'm sure this annoys Dak. I'm sure he must, when he hears it from friends or people, and he's getting a call from his agent, and like, is it over yet? Like, where are we? Yep. And he would just love to only talk to his agent about, gigs, family, just chit chatting.
Yep.
That's the way when I'm in a negotiation, it just weighs on you. It just weighs on you, and you're like, wait a minute. I know how I conduct my business. I know how I go about my business. I know how much time I've put in here. I know how much I feel what my value is. And I hear all the time in between contracts about my status and my job and blah, 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 blah. But what gives? And I can't wait till I'm through on the other side. And it just weighs on you every single moment of the day. I'm sure Dak would love to be like getting Myles Garrett questions right now, you know? Won't be terribly thrilled to see Myles crossover dribbling, you know, in a couple Sundays from now.
No, probably not.
But that's the game at least, right? That's the job. Not like answering questions about this again. And that's, again, why you might sit here and think that if he does reach game day 2 Sundays from now without a new deal, that he could sit here and go, there's got to be another way to go about life as a quarterback in the NFL when I'm going to get mine from somebody else. I can run the risk of it not being as popular, not being as good. I don't have a receiver as good as CD. I don't have a situation as great as the Metroplex. Those are all questions that you can have. But with each passing day, I think he entertains it. And you run that risk.
Or if you go by what he says about like not taking what Jerry says to the media seriously, maybe they're behind the door combos. He knows what Jerry's really thinking, and he knows that Jerry is, like I've been saying, he's playing puppet master in the press. So maybe he's not as concerned because he knows what's really going on.
Yeah,
maybe.
And Jerry said he's really comfortable with this sort of situation.
Yeah, I mean, he's.
You know who's
that's
not
what
though?
He's done his whole life.
The players aren't. The players aren't. But he's got a hammer, man. And the question is, does he swing it? How much does he swing it? How hard does he swing it? That looks like a man who's ready to swing a hammer really hard.
Well, as long as he's swinging that hammer
At
against
the Cleveland Browns.
that's all I care about personally. Swinging at the Eagles, swinging at the Giants and the Washington football team and the Niners, swing that hammer at them.
Yeah.
You do that, you're going to get paid. So,
yeah.
bottom line.
But let me just ask you this question. If it doesn't go down the contract, what's it going to look like when he strolls into Pittsburgh week 5 on a Sunday night? What are they going to be talking about? Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.